Well, and you mentioned transparency, especially on Twitter and social media. And one of the things that Joe and I talked about was, a couple of weeks ago, one of the investors in the Middle Ground Fund came out and had an issue and said that they were gonna sue you. You got out in front of it. Win, lose, or draw, whatever the situation is, whatever transpired, you got out in front of it and said, "Hey guys, this is going to come out, and here are the reasons why it's coming out, and I'm going to do my best to try to address this with my investors in house." 99% of the people wouldn't do that. I wouldn't be able to do that. I mean, that was something that, from a transparency standpoint, your fans wanted to know. I'm sure your attorney said, "Don't do it." What made you decide to do it, and how did?
Well, I'm a business person, so I make a habit of not listening to my attorneys.
You sound like my father.
Attorneys are supposed to highlight risk.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't make one investment if I did everything that they told me to do.
Right.
And so I've got to judge like the business risk, in both sides of it. And, both. And look, I think on the, my story is I started at making $10 an hour, on a night shift at a factory. Right. And, got my degree while I was working, and my investors know that story. My funds are performing very, very well. And so, you earn that credibility, with them. And so, people get sued every day, and people can say whatever they want to in a lawsuit, and it's not defamation. That's just the way the justice system works. Right. I never even replied to the lawsuit. It's already settled. I never even filed a reply. Right. And, I knew it was not an issue. People in the industry, they've talked about me from day one, and said stuff about me. And, I understand people have questions, but you know what? Sometimes people are just good people that, don't want to take anything from anyone. Right. And are just trying to have fun like everybody else is.
Right.
And, if everybody can just think back to the moment they got into the sport and how enthusiastic they were when they bought the first horse, and that electricity that runs through your blood, the first time you have a horse that runs on the track and it's yours, right? And it's in your silks,
right?
Like that charge of electricity. You know what I'm talking about, right? It's different than a horse player.
Absolutely.
It's a whole different experience. Win or lose, it's a whole different experience.
Right.
And, I felt that electricity, and I'm excited by that. I'm trying to share that with other people, which I think is good for the game.
Right.
And I'm not, look, at first, did I take some shots at some Mike Repole on Twitter? I did. But did he tell you in the 2-hour dialogue that I sent him an apology letter and apologized to him, ask him if we could like make this go better for the industry? Because I didn't like horse farms coming to me and saying, well, he's going to be there. Are you okay with it at this party or whatever? And I'm like, that's bad for the industry. And, I won't even tell you what his responses were, but he's kind of happy with keeping things the status quo. But, and that's why I decided it's just better not to interact with him. I don't want to do anything that has a negative connotation, on the sport that I love. We sponsored the Eclipse Awards this year. And I did that because I think it's one of the most special moments in horse racing for people, and, wanted to, to support, that endeavor. I bought stallion shares. Right. I don't need the income from the stallion shares, but I'm doing it to support the broader industry, because if I support their business, are they going to support my business? Right. And so that's the way I'm just trying to be involved in the industry and be a positive player in the space. And I'm really not trying to make any enemies. Right. I don't want my horses involved in any controversy. Right. I want to compete at the highest levels with integrity. I want to be able to, run against your horse and congratulate you when it wins. Right. And I'm the type of person, my horse gets second place. I got third. Diddy got third in the Breeders' Cup. We were tickled to death.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, you're in the Breeders' Cup. I mean, I'm not going to, sure, you get disappointed, when things happen, but, it's just, I've got that new owner kind of enthusiasm, and I'm trying to share it with people, like others are. Jason Worth is also doing some good work, getting new owners involved in the sport. And, I think some of that's good for the industry. I'm not, even if I say I want to do something to improve something, I'm not denigrating what anybody else is doing.
Right. No,
Like,
exactly.
I'm not trying to tell Coolmore how many stallions they need to breed their stallion to. If
Right.
Coolmore wants to put out the money,
Yeah.
right, and pay for the horses, they can do whatever they want to with them.
Right. It's a
Just
free
like
market.
I can buy Goodnight Olive and send her to,
Yep.
Seize the Gray if that's what I want to do. If
Right.
they think 280 a year is what they need to cover the fact they paid $75 million for the horse,
Right.
I'm not going to be the person to tell them no, right? That's their business and they know it better than I do. But at the same point in time, I'm not going to sell my horses to them if I think they're not doing it right, and then talk smack about their business, because that's not being a good business partner.
Right.
It's like you'll take their money when they want to pay you for your horse, but then you're going to talk bad about them. If you really think that they're standing horses with too many covers, and you've got and you're a multi-billionaire, then you know what you need to do is you need to stand them yourself and only cover 100 each and be the example for the industry.
Right. Yep.
Yeah. I just want to follow up on that because, first of all, we told Mike this and we'll tell you this, that if you guys both want to come on the show and chat, I think that would be amazing. We could put up money for charity or something like that, because I do think this dialogue is more productive when it's face-to-face and not on Twitter. I think the tweet storms sometimes are a little bit counterproductive, but
guys, you could go and look. I don't tweet it. I don't tweet any responses to him.
No, exactly.
That's fine. I'm just talking about
it's all one-sided.
Yeah, I'm just talking about in general. But the broader question is, have you faced other pushback from industry veterans since you came in the way you did?
And has that attitude changed? It's actually, look, and I'm sure that there's people that, talk behind my back. I'm used to that, too. You don't get where I've been, and come the way I came up without, I don't have a finance degree, and I got my name on a finance school at the University of Kentucky, I donated $10 million to the University of Kentucky before I had $10 million. Right.
And that's not even where you went.
Myself to earn the $10 million. Right. And so, I consider myself fortunate, every day. So, but there's people that'll talk about you or whatever. It motivates me because, when they say my dispersal sale, I love it. To be honest with you, after the show that you guys had, I doubled down at the sales in Europe to bring horses over here. Because you know what, when it comes to like our disagreements, I'm going to answer on the track.
Right.
My first year as a racing owner, I was the 15th leading stakes owner, not counting partnerships. I ran in 70 races, 62 of them stakes races. We were in the money 58% of the time.
Right.
So you can cast stones all you want on what I'm doing and how I'm doing it.
Right.
But, it's, we won $3.5 million, including partnerships last year in our first year. I mean, pretty good, results for the team. So do we do things a little unorthodox? Maybe, but go back to your question. Yeah, there's been some people, but I just block them out. Like on my social media, if you want to disagree with me, that's fine. John disagreed. I embraced it. I'll have the discussion. I think that's good. And other people disagreed with what I am breeding, too. That's fine. But if you're going to be disrespectful to somebody else, or you're going to be disrespectful to me or my team, and you don't want you just want to, do that kind of clickbait stuff, I just block them.
Yeah. And
I have a lot of people that will text me and apologize when I block them, or they'll reach out to me and have someone else reach out to me and apologize.
Right.
I'm fine with us questioning stuff, but, just because, social media, I don't like it for the fact that just because you have an opinion doesn't mean everybody needs to hear it. And if you look at my posts, I'm not trying to tell everybody in the industry what to do. I did a post that got made fun of by Mike, and all I said was, if everybody in the industry would just close their eyes and just imagine what a good industry looks like, and then look at what their role is in that scenario and how they're acting in that scenario where it's a good industry. And then when you open your eyes, just start acting that way. That's how we can change the industry. Right. And I got called out for that post. I wasn't trying to tell anybody what to do. That's philosophy, right? I'm getting ready to tell all my workers, they're coming in for our quarterly meeting, and tell them the same thing, right? If you want the business to be what you want it to be, you're a part of it. Just start acting like it. You start with yourself and act like it.
Yep. No, and you empower them by doing that. I mean, that's a great classic way of working with people and having employees buy into it and have them act like an owner. Because if you empower them with the ability to do so and you encourage them, then good things will happen. I mean, that's great business practice. John, the last question I have for you, and again, we appreciate your time on by coming on, is I've been in the business a long time, and people have said to me over the years, what have you learned by being in the business? And in very different stages. What I learned in year 2 was different than year 5, year 10, year 40 now. I'm going to ask you that question. What have you been in this for 2 years? You've been spending a lot of money. You've been improving your stock. Yes, you had a great run, but I'm sure next year, meaning 2025, you want to have those kind of numbers at Saratoga, Keeneland, and Churchill, as opposed to, some of the other racetracks. What have you learned in the 2 years that you're surprised about, either about the industry as a whole or about individual, not like calling people out, but like you're surprised that people have done X, Y, Z?
The biggest surprise to me is that people, this kind of breed to sale model that we moved to, is proven to be a no good business model for the people buying horses.
Right.
Right. If you go back to the last 15 years and you look at the horses that have been the top 50 earners, the average sale price has been $250,000.
Right.
The chances of buying a horse that's over $1 million and it ending up being a top 50 earner is like 2.5%.
Like 0%. Yeah, exactly. Yep.
So, and I bought some high dollar horses, right? And believe it or not, sometimes I do that. It's just been for my brand. Like when I bid on the Winx filly, I did that all as branding, right? I spent 1 week in Australia and I have a huge following in Australia just from that Winx filly. And I didn't even buy the horse, right? But I created a market, and part of it, I'm a business person. Like I understand that. Buying the top horse at Saratoga or at such and such, it carries headlines.
Right.
Those are free. And if you get a good horse along with it, but I know that my horse that I paid $2.5 million for, and I want to pay $50,000 for, the odds on are that it's pretty even on who's actually going to make it to the track and who's going to make a difference.
Right.
And so, I've studied a lot, and the one thing that's really interesting, and the bloodstock agents out there will hate me for this, but conformation of young horses is the only factor that our team has studied that has no correlation to winning on the racetrack at graded stakes level. And that's how all the commercial value is. And all these surgeries that these young horses go through, and there's not transparency in that.
Well, so
you go buy a horse, he looks straight, but he looks straight because he had 2 screws and a wire,
Right.
And, unless you can figure that out, and it happens so much, because I'm a breed to race operation and I'm telling the vets, they're telling me, hey, we need to do this. And I'm like, but I'm not selling it.
Right.
Like, I don't care. I don't care if it's a little crooked. Look at Sierra Leone,
right.
He's got a leg that flails, and he runs fantastic. You see horses like that all the time. So I'm just surprised that model, and pretty sophisticated people, that have been in this a lot longer than I have. I mean, I learned that really quickly, that's just not a smart business proposition. Now I had to fill in the gaps with, because I don't have any of my homebreds, it takes some time to get those.
Yep.
I'm probably going to have to buy some yearlings this year because, we had a small group last year. This year we got 30. Next year we'll have 60, and so it'll start speeding up for me there. But, and I understand that some of the market you have to buy at the sales if you want access to them. But, you're not going to see us buying as many young horses as like I have 51 2-year-olds right now.
Right.
That, and most of those were purchased, all of those were purchased.
Yep.
You're not going to see that out of us on a go forward basis.
Right.
It's much better. I can take the same money and buy a horse that's broken its maiden.
Right. That's proven.
That's proven for the same amount of money. Like, $1 million, you pay $1.5 million, $2 million for a top pedigree horse at the sale.
Right.
You can buy a lot of horse
that's
already proven.
Yep.
And I think that's a pretty good business model.